Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to each one of you. I'm Sri Sudarshan, the Communications Director of PMOGA India Hub. I'm delighted to be here hosting a highly anticipated episode of the PMO Insight series. This series is proudly brought to you by PMOGA India Hub, the esteemed local community of PMO Global Alliance in India. In today's engaging panel discussion, our focus will illuminate how the emerging technologies like blockchain and generative AI can help in improving strategy delivery and PMO performance for aligning the project goals with the organization strategy and bridging the gap between strategy, design, and delivery. We would like to thank all our event and knowledge partners and supporters for making this event possible. Without any further ado, let's dive into the heart of this discussion as I hand over this reins to Dr. Mazin Gadir. Dr. Mazin, over to you.
Thank you so much. Just double checking you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
We're good? Excellent. So transmitting all the way from the beautiful city of Cairo in Egypt. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for this privilege to be with you. Special thanks to Mr. Gaurav and the wonderful community of PMO Global Alliance chapter in India. It's such a great pleasure to be with you, with also the different supporters and multiple partners that we have on this organization and community that brings this beautiful panel to you. This epic panel is basically titled Improving Strategy Delivery and PMO Performance with Blockchain and Generative AI. And we do have heavyweights from the industry with immense experience. As you all know, blockchain and generative AI are two of the most transformative and disruptive technologies of our times, especially in the post-COVID-19 era, where all industries have been disrupted with these two specific disruptions and trends. We are also witnessing the potential of these technologies to revolutionize the way we develop and implement strategies across enterprises in many industries and how we manage projects in these industries. Blockchain can help definitely revolutionize and disrupt the way we deliver strategy. We look at their potential benefits and how security and transparency could be leveraged within this amazing technology to track progress. Meanwhile, generative AI is the news of the hour. It's basically the trend that is happening all over the world with huge industries are being disrupted as we speak. And how do PMOs get impacted specifically in the art of delivering and managing project in the hope of excellence and um, driving enterprise outstanding performance. So, with this quick intro and basically setting the background, despite the challenges and the benefits of all these technologies, specifically blockchain and generative AI, we are here to debate and hear from the heavyweight experts who are actually coming from all over the world to you to actually present their point of view, lessons learned, and thoughts in this specific topic. So let me start with our panelists. Let me introduce our first panelist, Heba Shehhi, who's the head of the PMO in Dubai Municipality, the United Arab Emirates, one of the most disruptive PMOs globally and very well established and well awarded. If I may bring, well, let's have a virtual hand clap, I guess, huh, to our first panelist. The second panelist is Colonel Dr. Inderjeet Singh, the Chief Cyber Officer and at Vara Technology, well versed with the blockchain ecosystem. And then we have Dr. Al Zeitoun, a Senior Director Strategy at Siemens with an immense background and thought leadership in the area of project management, office, and ecosystem. We also have Ms. Namita Jain, insights practice lead at nasscom, and an amazing industry expert who would like to add and share her thoughts and experience with you. With all these amazing, wonderful heavyweight panelists, let's put our virtual hands together. That's it. Excellent. Let me just quickly, as I start asking the question, I also ask the panelists to add their flavor, their background, and how can they actually relate to the matter and the topic of this panel. So let me start with the first question specifically, and let me start with ladies first. What are the specific use cases for blockchain and generative AI and PMOs that could be shared with one of the most disruptive PMOs coming out of the United Arab Emirates? And let me start with Ms. Heba Shehhi.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Mazin. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having us, PMOGA India. I want to start with the idea of having a co-pilot to the PMO team members. So to start with, the AI as a basic, let's say, use, we can use the conversational chatbot, which can very easily, based on what we ask, for example, I could ask, what are the delayed projects that are affecting my KPI? The chatbot should give me very quickly all of those that are affecting the KPI, whether they are related to risk management or the progress of project or anything else. And it can also very quickly visualize those for us in graphs or in any other way. We know that AI has this language accuracy that's really impressive. It has the language modeling that's better than humans, obviously. But to start with, it's all about the data. It's all about how it correlates the data. The other use case that we are working on is the cost sheet, or let's call it the budget estimation technique. So it will become an intelligent budget estimation based on the data that's in our project management system. It will take all of the historical data and all of the data sets and do this custom machine learning. Add to that fluctuation in market prices, for example, the lessons learned from previous projects, the exact requirements of the project. For example, if we're doing something to plant more trees in a certain area, then it will take the space, it will take the number of trees, it will take the services that will be implemented in that area. Put all of that together, and based on the history and the projections, it should give a more accurate budget estimation guideline or numbers for the project manager. The other use case that we are working on is the roadblocks in the project. So if I need to identify very quickly whether the project is going on track or not, what are the roadblocks that can be avoided in the future? So based on a few different inputs, currently we're working on doing a customized lessons learned model. It will take information from that model. It will take information from surveys that we send to project managers after the project is closed or even during the project. And it will check all of those delays and the problems that are happening during the project and in the status of the project. So it will show us immediately what are the gaps that we need to work on, give us those guidelines as PMO to take it forward, give the same guidelines to the project manager to work on developing his project more. So these are the three main cases that we are working on right now. However, there are many other use cases that are there's a big potential with the AI tools that are being implemented right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Heba. And maybe let me jump on a global matter, Dr. Al. Specifically, how do you see or how do you reflect on the I guess, three areas of pilots that was mentioned by Ms. Heba in terms of from your global perspective as one of the global leaders in strategy execution, from your experience?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mazin. In your introduction, you mentioned debate. I wasn't planning on a debate. It sounds like we might go into that space. However, again, Al Zeitoun, and of course, one of the reasons I joined Siemens, being a technology organization, is for me to be and this relevant space that affects what my background is all about, which is more in the program portfolio and PMO impact creation over the years. So I'm presenting my views here, not Siemens, but also may use a couple of Siemens examples. These are available in public domain as well. Heba's points are spot on. I love it. I love the Copilot experimentation. I think that's more or less, we haven't formalized some of the applications within PMOs that much. But for immediately, one of the immediate reasons why we get excited about the technology, it almost closes the gap that we've had over the years as PMs in terms of having access to that kind of an assistant, that intelligent assistant, the one that can change the mechanics of the life of the PM and the PMO, where it becomes much more focusing on creating impact rather than the more the tactical side. You look at the research, you look at PMI, for example. I have data here from thought leadership about the AI innovators basically confirm that 70% or so of their projects are delivering that 95% impact compared to the laggards, of course, much, much smaller percentage. When I was earlier this year in Amberg, one of our facilities of Siemens, and the PMO is trying to always learn from, it's easy to apply AI on the technology side and see the use cases there quite effective. I heard some of the ones from Heba, and obviously our industries are slightly different, although we do get into the infrastructure and facilities and those kinds of areas as well, like in the municipality. However, this example was simply about, hey, the PMO thinks, can we create more efficiencies with AI? Can we look at how we can save this testing of the different circuit boards that we had in that facility that cost us about €500,000 or so for each of the X-ray scanners, and instead use AI, use sensors, send the data to cloud, use an edge device and a controller to ultimately have almost exactly the same accuracy or more when it comes to the utilization of AI. So the PMs or in the PMOs take those kinds of technical examples and turn the environment into much more of a technical lab. My belief all throughout my journey is projects and PMOs are about that project lab kind of an experimentation environment. And that's why combination of AI and blockchain are giving us the assurances that we need to do that experimentation, still leverage the solid information that we have and the security of the data. And many examples around the world have done very well with that. Maybe one last one I mentioned here, the University of Birmingham, for example, applied this project lab concept. They call it the Living Lab. This is more from the sustainability standpoint. I think they have even campuses in Dubai. And the idea there is to truly, the use case is to use sensors, use the technology, use the AI-enabled decentralized kind of a generation of the data to ensure that we are affecting in that case, they're experimenting on the decarbonization, right? So it's really affecting sustainability. And blockchain enabled them to really get to a place where they are getting to a place where the integrity of the data and the integrity of the PM processes, like we will hear from our panelists, is giving us enough more of the confidence that we need. So exciting times ahead, I believe, for the PMs.
Excellent, excellent. That's a wonderful honing down on some really good examples, Dr. Al. Much appreciated. Moving on, maybe I'm very excited also to bring in Dr. Inderjeet, if possible, especially on the benefits and challenges and risks that you probably have seen from your wide and deep experience by using these six technologies, especially the blockchain. I think your expertise in blockchain is immense as well. And applicability of that in PMO. What are your thoughts, Dr. Inderjeet?
Thank you, PMOGA, and it's really wonderful to be here today and discussing on a very pertinent issues, and especially the integration between the blockchain and the AI. That's the best. And to tell you all, blockchain happens to be the foundational technology, and AI rides on it when it gives a generative AI, or any of the AI versions which we work on. It gives you the intelligence on this foundational technology. So it gives a kind of a unique advantages when it comes to it. But at the same time, there are specific challenges which are going to have risk. The Heba brought out lots of interesting points. Al also brought out lots of interesting points. So let me touch upon the blockchain as a subject. And when we look at the blockchain, and that's quite known, we get a lot of enhanced data security. It's an immutable records which we have it. We have smart contracts which we are using it for automation of all your processes. We have the decentralized and trust. And we're all already talking of permissioned blockchain for organization. We are talking about the transparency in document management, whether it's your banking or any of the other sectors, so supply chain or healthcare or your records. Everywhere we are trying to talk of all the document transparency and streamlined resource allocation, and also your audit trail. So that really gives lots of benefits of the blockchain. And when it comes to the challenges, so it's got its own inherent challenges, and it's a complex implementation. It's not easy, as we say. We really need to have proper design thinking before we get into it. The scalability issues for an organization or a regulatory uncertainty, we still are not very clear as to how really we are going to look at it. Stakeholder adoption, that's really one which I see that it's taking a lot of time, and it's people looking for what's there in me when I put a blockchain, and potential data loss because of the hacks, which we are all knowing it, and the risks which are there, the security vulnerabilities do come up. Though we always have the security in the blockchain, which is one of the best, but then it's got its own security challenges. Now, when you look at the AI part of it, now interestingly, with the blockchain, we talk of the task automations. Already Heba brought out 3 use cases. We are trying to talk of the decision support. We are trying to talk of the data insights, the predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, the NLP, the automated reporting, and also your quality control. So all those things are going to give an edge when we are using, the AI along with the blockchain, right? And definitely the implementation is going to have its own challenges. We have some subjects, if you have read through, the algorithm biases which are going to come up, the integration complexity. Everybody is gaga over the AI, the generative AI, but integration complexity, when we look at the way the whole architecture is going to come up, right? So we are talking of the Web3 now. We are talking of blockchain as a foundational. Put on it your AI getting into the whole framework, and that's where it's going to be. Skill gaps we are going to see quite a bit, right? So those are the kind of things which are on the anvil, which we are going to see it in future. So I'll stop here, listen to the others as well.
Excellent, excellent, and that's very insightful. Thank you so much, Dr. Inderjeet, for actually bringing that angle. Maybe and moving on to the industry perspective. And Namita, you have been in the industry for a while, and you've been with CTS Tech before, nasscom now. What is nasscom's view on the technologies, these disruptive technologies, blockchain and Gen AI, and how is it disrupting the way you do projects?
Sure. Thank you, Mazin, for the question, and wonderful to be part of this panel today. Thanks for having me. So I think all my panelists pointed out very well that blockchain and AI overall have been the 2 most disruptive technologies, and generative AI has taken the level of disruption to the next level in AI itself. Both of these technologies are very compute heavy. They require specific kinds of resources when it comes to computation, when it comes to storage. Both of them require a very different kind of architecture from the traditional technologies that we've seen, or the tech architectures and tech stacks that we've seen. Why? Because and we've heard this, right? Generative AI is democratizing the way you and I, any one of us, without actually knowing what goes within AI, can utilize it to get outcomes that probably with previous versions of AI, only data scientists or trained ML engineers or AI engineers could do. Now, generative AI has completely democratized that interface for us, that capability for us. Blockchain, again, democratizes the availability, utility, and traceability of information. I think these 2 technologies coming together can be very powerful, but we have to be careful, right? And that is where, when we look at these 2 technologies from nasscom's perspective, our first perspective is that technology in itself is neither good nor bad. It is the utilization or the use cases that determine the nature of impact, the level of impact and the scalability of technology for much greater good. And we've always been advocating, whether it is Web3 or generative AI, that there's got to be a lot more ethics behind the utilization of technology. We have to first think about the outcome and the potential use cases of upcoming technologies to then decide how to use them. What that also means, and what NASSCOM has been recommending, is that uh, any new technology should not be seen in a negative flavor and outrightly banned. We need to work with technology. We need to put the right kind of sandboxes based on the sensitivity of the use cases, the criticality of data involved, data sharing involved, and then decide what kind of use cases are there where we can actually take risks. What are the use cases where we need to have the right kind of guardrails? So I think our perspective has been technology is welcome, technological evolution is welcome. Where we need to position our minds is really thinking about what's the impact or what's the likely impact and work back from there based on the kind of guardrails that are required.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Nasmita, for giving me the segue to this next question. And I like the way that you've actually highlighted the importance of outcome-driven approach when you deal with such technologies, and the area of sandboxing and how sandboxing would allow more innovation and adoption. Addressing some of the points mentioned by Dr. Inderjeet as well, scalability, stakeholder adoption. Thank you for that. This is really, really a nice segue for my next question to Ms. Heba. I'm an organization, I want to prepare for a disruptive technology, Gen AI or Gen AI or blockchain. What's your advice for me?
To start with, we need to focus on the future. So the future foresight in any organization is really important. It's all about trend analysis and coming up with different scenarios that might not be right now plausible, but they will be in the future. So the more we are prepared for the future as organizations, the better we can deal with our daily works right now and deal with the challenges that are happening and manage those opportunities that come to us. So my advice for the organizations is to kind of try to merge the PMO work with future foresight, using AI, using those trend analysis tools that we have right now, using the big data that we are gathering or we gathered already in all of our enterprise systems, and give the AI the chance to do this trend analysis and those scenarios for you, coming up with different variations of the future, let's say.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Heba. Bringing Dr. Al into the equation. So, Dr. Heba said, set the vision, look at trends, and involve PMO across the different functions. Dissolve PMO within or not dissolve it, but incorporate it within different functions, and specifically the innovation and future foresight, with huge focus on big data. Also, your thoughts, Dr. Al, from a global perspective.
Yeah, I love those comments and the previous comments as well. And yes, we were talking about massive disruptions that are coming at us. I think there's a saying by Peter Drucker: "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And I think for us to make the most use of these disruptive technologies, we gotta pay so much attention on the kind of digital culture and kind of individuals we have. I think the best thing I recently read that was really useful to me to put a couple of those elements together was a work from Accenture. And I love they call the MELS attributes, right? So if you look at the MELS, it has the mindset component, so encouraging that right mindset. It's getting into the engagement. You heard also the comments about engaging the stakeholders from the panel. The piece about supporting that active, involved leadership. We cannot really tackle the utilization of disruptive technology with the same kind of leadership. I can't wait till we get to the questions also, because the data components it becomes even much more fundamental to that. But it does require a very different level of adaptability for the excellence really in bringing those PMOs to the full utilization of technologies, and of course the skills component. As I mentioned even in the opening remark, the PMOs are still a step behind in a way in the full utilization of AI, in my personal opinion, given the fact that we've focused much more on the immediate impact of AI and blockchain in terms of the technological going at speed and operational efficiency, because these are natural things we can see, of course, in manufacturing and other spaces. But I love to emulate those concepts and bring them into the PMO. We have an initiative called Sea Green, for example. This is actually a very good, blockchain type, because it's using the Ethereum network there and disrupted ways by which we are bringing the suppliers, the customers, etc., to the same space in terms of finding a way by which we can jointly have a way by which we are contributing to the environment and to affecting the footprint that they are creating. The same thing I want to bring into the PMO in terms of testing the strategies before they are actually implemented. Strategy is all about processes that are supporting our ways of thinking and ultimately affecting people and where they execute. So we want to make sure that the PMOs are ready to be the integrators of the future and putting the technology right at the center of how they tackle the execution of that strategy.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for giving us a wonderful umbrella of thoughts to actually tackle important issues: leadership, involvement, data component, skills, stakeholder engagement, the mindset. And thank you for highlighting culture. I really appreciate that. Let's take a specific double click and specific approach, double click on security. And let me ask Dr. Inderjeet, what are the security issues in terms of using these technologies?
Very interesting. And just to tell you, anything which is a software, which are code, is all hackable. So nothing is secure. Whether we say blockchain is secure or AI, generative AI is going to be secure, all are going to have their challenges. And while we are seeing that so many advantages coming up, everybody talks of the technology from its use case point of view, but security is always going to be there. And we're already seeing the hacks happening, whether it's a generative AI, we are seeing hacks using the video generative AI, hacking and getting into the extortion part of it, or kind of also fleecing the people with the voice generative AI. So when I talk of the blockchain, let me take it two things separately and tell you how it really works. So blockchain is, again, I told you, it's all can be hacked. And one of the very common kind of hack is around 51% attack, where we are able to take a control by, if you're able to control 51% of the computing power of the network. Smart contracts itself, though we say they're best, but they are exploitable codes or vulnerabilities which are there. Privacy keys itself, the loss of keys, the management of keys, the compromise of private keys is a major challenge which we have. Your consensus mechanism risk, which we always see, they have their own security implications. Your regulatory compliances, which are, like I told you, the challenges in meeting the legal and regulatory compliances, and your privacy concerns, where your sensitive data exposure on the public blockchain. Though we do talk of the private blockchain, but then when if the public blockchain, it's a problem. And the oracles and your external data, they have a problem of the risks which are associated with the external kind of data. And at the same time, now, if you talk generative AI, it has got its own inherent risks. And one of the major risks, which is there is the data privacy and the risks of data breaches, privacy violations, which we are saying we're going to see, data biases. And one thing which is important when we talk about the generative AI is the data poisoning, right? That's going to be very dangerous, where you're manipulating the training data itself, your fairness of the data, so that if it's unfair models, then how do you really know your model vulnerabilities for adversarial attacks, right? Your IPR risks, where you're talking of the legal and the ethical concerns regarding data, and the model robustness. There are so many models which have come up. If you look at on the horizontal chat GPT or the LLM which is there, but there are so many vertical models which have come up, ensuring, we need to really ensure whether they are reliable under various conditions, how they are extracting data and how they are being used, and how the data modeling is being done. And also the explainability and the interpretability is very important of how do you really understand those decision models what we are creating? So it's got its own risks, both the technologies, but same time we go ahead with the best part of it, and try and overcome these kind of security risks which are there, and make the systems more robust.
Dr. Singh, I really appreciate what you're saying. You really have put or hit a nerve there. So that's fantastic. So one of the biggest findings out of COVID-19, the real virus wasn't the COVID-19 only virus. It was the infodemic that actually made us think about technology and concepts like data poisoning. I love what you said. It's exciting terms. That is so spot on, Dr. Singh. So thank you so much for putting your finger on the pain point. And I think going back to some of the points that was mentioned by the panelists, these risks can uncover lucrative industries and opportunities to skill up organizations and open up new ways of pivoting. And that's why I want to focus Namita's experience, having worked in wonderful organizations previously and being also part of nasscom. And I wanted to bring out your thoughts on the privacy and your angle from that, or your angle of thoughts.
Sure. And I think Dr. Inderjeet already covered most of the elements of data security, data privacy risks, risks related to the utilization and the outcome of technology. But when you look at the combination of AI and blockchain and the promise that particularly generative AI and blockchain have, which is more of democratization, more of decentralized controls, bringing something as complex as blockchain and generative AI to for everyday use to people. That is where I think the biggest risk is, and that is where we say that awareness about technology is extremely critical. That, to our mind, aside of all the established and known risks, is one of the biggest risks. We know that there's going to be a climate impact. We know there is data privacy. There are data security and privacy issues. We understand that technology, because it is software based, can be hacked. However, the biggest aspect, and Dr. Inderjeet pointed out to that, is how do we build the right mindset? We can inherently bias generative AI models or even AI models, so to speak. How do we build awareness about what are the biases? Have we spent enough? Have we given that enough attention as organizations? Probably not. So I think there is the biggest risk where we as users and power users of technology have to understand our role in not only utilizing technology, but also preparing the next generation of technologists to be more responsible about it. So there needs to be enough training about what are the risks involved when, or what are the inherent biases when thinking about AI. There has to be enough training and awareness to most users of AI, generative AI, and blockchain as to what kind of data to be shared, what kind of data to not be shared. We've seen some blanket bans by organizations, Samsung, Apple. These are all technology companies. These are not end user organizations who are probably restricting their employees to not use technology. They're very, very central to the overall technology revolution. And yet we've seen those bans. So somewhere we think that awareness is an important element. We can get technology right to a certain level, but the biggest bottleneck or the biggest risk in our minds is awareness of the people who are going to use this technology.
Amazing use of important concepts, Namita. I really appreciate you. Democratization and decentralization approaches by marriage of those two technologies, the marriage of those two technologies. I think the elimination of biasness is very important concept that we are seeing now in this LLM world that we are living in. Thank you, Namita. But final round of questions before I open that to the audience, folks. And let me start with Heba, because one of the biggest headaches and questions we get are the cost of such technologies in PMOs, and how do we realize the ROI? How do we calculate that return on investment? This investment is financial, or whether this investment is efforts. What are your thoughts?
So, like any other project idea, there has to be a very concrete study for the use of AI. But when it comes to studying it, we should be more agile into the study. So I do agree with the idea that we need to have a sandbox. We need to try out those technologies very quickly once they come. Think about the data that we have, the security issues that might arise, but do things very quickly. So when we set up this study, there has to be sprints in which first we are testing out, trying out, and then we're thinking in parallel about our use cases and what are the benefits for us. For each use case, we have a business or a study, a very simple study for each use case, in which we have also the alternative scenarios. What if this doesn't work out for us? We still need decision making, we still need the trend analysis. How are we going to do it? We think about the different technologies that are there. What are the prices? What are the licenses that we need? We need to think about our infrastructure. For example, for us, we can use the cloud as long as the data are open. If the data are not open, then we are not allowed to use the cloud environment. We have to do it on premise. So all of these financial costs need to be calculated ahead of time. We need to have the alternative scenarios as well. And how to calculate the ROI depend on my initial benefits that I am planning from each use case. I will have a set of benefits that I need to achieve all of these, whether they are financial or non-financial. And towards the end of the project, I go back and measure those benefits. Did I achieve them or not? If I achieve them, then this is my ROI. It doesn't have to be financial per se. And it all depends on keeping our eye on the target. What do we need exactly from those AI tools? Do we need them only for the sake of people saying they implemented AI? It's not about the name of the AI. It's about the use and the scenarios that are they have to be beneficial for us.
Excellent, excellent. And maybe I love what you said, because this brings up another subsection of what you've mentioned. How do we get that ROI brings in the question, how do we actually see the impact of communication and collaboration among stakeholders, especially when we have technologies. And one of the biggest lessons learned out of COVID-19 is melting down the silos between industries and companies to collaborate for innovation. Dr. Al, bringing you in, where do you see, or how these technologies can be used to bring in new collaboration combinations, communication approaches among the different stakeholders?
Yeah, I'm going to combine that a little bit with the ROI you started with your past question, because I still remember being on the ground in KSA and in their big event earlier this year in June, and having a debate while we're eating shawarma, and I have Stuart and Laura and other giants in the PMO space as well. So let's start by saying the world of work has changed, and it will continue to change. So that debate was all about the security aspects of AI, or what we've enabled AI to do, or Gen AI to do, versus the upside. And like here on my right, I have this as a reminder so that I don't ever forget that the world has changed. Gen AI, according to McKinsey, for example, 4.4 trillion in new economic value annually added to the global economy in dollars. The reality is, if you look at what we are now seeing, is that the PMOs. So, for example, just last comment on the ROI before I talk more about the transparency aspects. Think about everything we have been doing to date in project management, from challenges with estimating and schedules and cost, and where the PMs spend their time, and debating the value of PMOs, and changing the names of PMOs to transformation PMOs, enterprise PMOs. All of that hinges on the fact that we had some gaps and unrealized linkages in the entire end-to-end almost view of what this profession and what the PMOs can do, right? So if you look at the transparency side, disrupting how a board of director makes decisions, for example, in terms of the kind of data access that they have, or disrupting the ways by which the kind of data we look at to ensure that we're spending our time where it matters the most, which is really thinking. I love my friend John Maxwell. He probably, when he wrote Thinking Again for a Change, didn't think that AI will be what it is today, for example. But in reality, we will be able to think again for a change, right? So that's the space I'm very, very much excited about for the PMs and for the decision makers around the room, is that we finally have the ability to look at the data that contributes to those decisions very differently and spend our time in what matters, which is ultimately the sensing aspect out of the data, connecting with the stakeholders, and exercising the empathy we need to excel in the delivery as well. So again, a very, very high value potentially to the transparency that it could create for us.
Excellent. So bring in Dr. Inderjeet on that as well. The love between between different stakeholders, technologies, and the gagging for ROI, return on investment. From your thoughts, Dr. Singh, in terms of improvement on communication and collaboration to realize more benefits and engage more stakeholders.
It's very important. Whenever there's a technology which comes up, there's a kind of a spike which is there, and we see that everybody's running behind the technology. We saw same thing happening for the metaverse. If you have last year what we saw, then it's down the chain. It's kind of not very normalized. Blockchain, similarly, we saw a lot of spike earlier, then it went down. Now we are seeing a lot of the technology has been imbibed. Similarly, for the Chat GPT and the LLMs, what we are seeing, and then it settles down to a different level, their use cases, their efficacy, and how they're going to be used. So when we come on, kind of a ROI, very importantly, we have to do what Heba also was trying to bring it out. We need to do a design thinking, whether we require it or not. And everybody saw it. If you look back 2018, 19, we saw every industry saying, it's going to disrupt our industry the way it is. And you've found all the use cases in the world telling that we are going to use blockchain. How many used in due course of time? We're all aware of it. That's where we need to do a design thinking part of it. What's the technology acquisition cost, what we're going to have? What are the infrastructure costs which is going to incur for that? What are the security measures which are going to be there? What would be the integration cost which will happen? Change management expenses. We never, and that's some key area when we look at the PMO, whether the change management expenses are being catered for or not, right? So those are the areas which have to be worked out, and we really have to think up as to what are going to be the potential risks which are associated with it. What are the kind of implementation costs which are going to come up when we talk about the ROI part of it? What will be the benefits with the kind of metrics what we have to look at, and then we really come up and say, this is my ROI for blockchain and generative AI. So now, while we see very specific industry-wise, if we talk of it, we've seen BFSI taking the lead, supply chain management taking the lead. Similarly, we are saying the consumer segment with the Chat GPT coming up, BFSI taking the lead with the generative AI. So lots of areas are coming up, and the ROI has to be calculated on those bases as to what is the additional cost and what is the profit benefits when I'm using this new technology to acquire the customer, and grow in the business. So that's where we have to look in the future.
Excellent. And maybe ending on a very high note, Namita, and I'm bringing you quickly for 1 minute, because you've been part of and you've commented nicely on a roundtable that was organized on responsible AI concepts, a roundtable that was organized and collaborated with by nasscom. Some of the lessons learned from that amazing roundtable on the impact of generative AI on business, where you discussed responsible AI in the last 30 seconds.
Sure. I think that was a very important step that we took. And what we've been advocating is building generative AI capabilities with a responsible first design principle. Dr. Inderjeet, Dr. Al, Dr. Heba, everybody has been mentioning about design thinking. And that I think is crucial because design thinking is an important element here in helping us understand how do we identify first the ill effects or the very, very critical and brand impacting risks of technology, particularly generative AI and blockchain here, and how do we work against that to minimize the risks of that. So I think one of the outcomes, important learnings from that discussion was what should the responsible AI framework be? And we've kind of published that. It's available for everybody to go through, but that's India's first take on what should be the responsible AI position.
Amazing. Thank you for giving us a beautiful round of thoughts as we close the panel for and open it up for actually in a bit for public questions. But let me hand over now the mic to Goraf to take us to the next part, and then we'll come back to the Q&A. Thank you so much, our wonderful panelists.
Thank you, Dr. Mazin, and thank you, everyone. So I'm really happy to see the audience today, and it's really an insightful discussion so far. And now it gives me immense pleasure to introduce you to Alan Manuel, who is the Group Vice President, Value Stream Management Products at PlanView. He's an entrepreneur, evangelist, and growth executive building enterprise B2B cloud business leading to successful customer and shareholder outcomes. He has launched and grown multiple PaaS and SaaS products and has domain expertise in areas including digital transformation methodologies, mid and back office, and cloud working in large and small companies. He holds degrees from MIT and INSEAD. So, without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Alan for sharing his insights on this topic. Welcome, Alan, and over to you.
Great, thank you so much. Fascinating. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's been a fascinating conversation. My name is Alan Manuel. I'm currently the Global Vice President of Products for PlanView. For those of you who don't know, our organization specializes in helping companies with their digital transformation, which is connecting strategy, planning, portfolio and project management, and value stream management through our platform. In our platform, we take advantage of a number of different kinds of AI, such as predictive analytics, machine learning, sentiment analysis. But the most exciting thing is what Ms. Heba really started with, which is generative AI and specifically Copilot. So I have just a few minutes here. I want to give you a quick view of PlanView Copilot and what it can do, especially in the context of the conversation that we've just had. Okay, hopefully you can all see my screen here. And this is an offering which we just recently launched. And this is PlanView Copilot. So PlanView Copilot is a generative AI service that sits on top of our platform. It has access to all the data that I just mentioned. So let's say I'm in an organization. Underneath Copilot is my company's strategies, OKRs, portfolios, projects, and some of my software development. And the challenge with that is, even though all the data are there, it can be sometimes difficult to understand what are the most important things to worry about. And so you have to learn, you have to go through the graphs, you have to go through all the screens to really see what's going on. With PlanView Copilot, you can take advantage of generative AI to ask a question that sort of a normal person would ask. So for example, I can ask, what should I worry about today? Okay. So as we talked about, several of the speakers this morning mentioned the concept of democratization. And so what PlanView Copilot does is it allows the everyday user to have the knowledge of really the most experienced project manager, the most experienced agile coach, the most experienced strategy developer, by taking advantage of the expertise that we've built in and applying it to your organization's data, and then returning those results back in in this case, an English language response. It really allows everyone to sort of be at the level of the most advanced expert within their organization, or in fact, within all of the organizations that we work with. And by the way, this interface is in English, but just because of the way that the copilots are set up, we can actually communicate, and I think we've tested it with over 17 different languages. Okay, so in this case, what we see is Copilot has come back and it said, it's pointed out that there are delayed objectives here. There some key results are, this is a banking example, some key results are behind. This is what an area that we call value stream management, which helps teams become more efficient in their software development. So it's really looking across several different domains. In each domain, it's finding out, for this example user, what are the most important things for me to worry about? And then it's looking across domains and saying, okay, I have a worry over here, I have a concern over here, I have a delay over here. Which of these is the most important one? And it's using the training that we have behind the scenes to go ahead and give the user the answer. So in this case, we can ask it a question such as, what can I do to get my objectives back on track? Oops. Okay. So PlanView Copilot, it's not just a service that reads data. It actually is trained with the standard actions and capabilities that an expert should take in order to fix a particular situation. So you notice here, we're not going, even though there's an application underneath this, we're not going into the underlying data. We're not trolling through different screens. We're not going into portfolios. It's actually going in and looking at all of that, and it's comparing different alternatives of things that we could move. Okay. So here, what it's talking about is there's some, in this case, it's an example of a team that's doing some development work, and it's giving us some general advice about maybe reprioritizing work, but it's also giving us some very specific advice. So down here, it's actually reading different objectives that are on our roadmap. And if I say something like this, I know we just have a couple of minutes, delay the loyalty program. So this is an item that's in one of our underlying applications. And traditionally what happens with management teams is they go into meetings, they determine what to do, and it takes a while for the action to take place. But in this case, we could actually go through and through this interface actually delay the item, and it's immediately updated in the underlying project management. So you no longer have to go into your project management tool. You could actually use an interface like this to be able to go ahead and do it. And I see we just have to conclude now, and we can take up some questions from the audience. So I'll bring it back to the moderator.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you so much. And I'll just pass it over to Dr. Mazin now. So Dr. Mazin, I'll be just flashing the questions in the order which they were received.
Sure. While you do that, quickly reminding the audience, please connect with our panelists. They have wonderful LinkedIn pages.
Now, and we can take up some questions from the audience. So I'll bring it back to the moderator.
And follow them.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you so much. And I'll just pass it over to Dr. Mazin now. So Dr. Mazin, I'll be just flashing the questions in the order which they were received.
Okay. Just double checking. While you do that, quickly reminding the audience, please connect with our panelists. They have wonderful LinkedIn pages.
Now, and we can take up some questions from you.
So yeah, so now let's start with the first question from Khalifa al-Dahani or Dahan. Sorry, it's well known that AI is only as good as the data fed into it. As a PMO, what kind of data do we need to collate and input for the most optimal outcome? That's a very good question. Thank you, Mr. Khalifa. Who would like to take that?
Can I take it, Dr. Mazin?
By all means, go ahead, Ms. Heba.
So we know that the data is, or the AI tools are very highly dependent on the data that we feed into our systems. First of all, we have to make sure that the right systems are the source of the data. So it shouldn't be only the PMO system or the project management system. So for me to be able to have the budget estimation, then I need to get the data from financial systems, from the archives, from different sources. So the sources should be very clear. This is the first side of it. The second one is that there could be wrong information fed into these systems. And it's important here to forget about AI and focus on the humans. So this is why in my PMO team, I have a team called Readiness Team that reviews every business case that's entered in the system. And this readiness team is combined from PMO members, budget member, and financial people. and strategy people. So everyone will review their own part. So there has to be some checking for the data before we depend on it. And the last thing is that we have to know that we shouldn't be very dependent on these tools when we first set them up. The tool has to have its time to learn from our data. We need to keep testing it, keep looking for the right answer that fits us. And then maybe we can grow little by little to trust it more and be dependent on it more. But all of these come together, so we shouldn't forget about the sanity of the data itself.
Thank you. Going back to basics, always remember data
Can I
sanity.
add, Dr. Mazin?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Singh. Yes.
So primarily, it's a pretty interesting question to answer. What you need to understand is the life cycle of the data, what you're doing, starting from the data harvesting to your data lake, to data management, data cleaning, and purging the data when it's not required. That's the most important factor when you're managing the data in any organization as a project management officer. And the other aspect which you need to look into is the algorithms what you're using, the AI algorithms. And just to give a heads up, we are still supervised AI, semi-supervised AI, and the kind of algorithms what we're using, that is the most important. Yeah. Because the algorithm which works for other company may not work well for you. You need to tune those algorithms to get the optimal result for you, right? So these are the kind of things which you have to go to the drawing table and work it out, and then use the AI. And then we may use terms like predictive analytics, or when it is unsupervised, we may talk of the prescriptive analytics. But then those are very good terms to use them, but have your strategy very clear, have your algorithms very clear, see the output what you're looking in for, and if you get it, use those. They are really wonderful.
Excellent, wonderful, Dr. Inderjeet. So clarity, don't forget going back to basics, cleaning your data, and don't forget to always do quality control. Thank you, Dr. Inderjeet, reminding our audience, quality control, as well as Ms. Heba. Next question, how can we ensure the transparency, security, and ethical use of generative AI within blockchain systems to create trust and accountability in decentralized applications and smart contracts? Very, very loaded question. Thank you, Ayman Al Khalifa. Who would like to take a dig at this?
So I'll take since it's a security question, let me put it across. And just to tell you, I told you, it's the code and blockchain or generative AI or LLM. These are a piece of codes. They're all hackable, and the skill which is required to build up these codes is really phenomenal. Whenever you develop any algorithm or a software or application, VAPT is the most important factor of that. The application testing, the OWASP testing, the auditing of the application, whether it's a blockchain or your generative AI, is the most important thing which you need to do. What are the vulnerabilities which are there in the blockchain application? Because what happens, every blockchain guy says, I've written a code which really works. Did you check what are the vulnerabilities? Are you knowing the vulnerabilities in real time? The question is a big no right now. So you need to really work all those things of the security to ensure that the blockchain application is robust. Because again, I'm telling you, all the blockchain hacks which happen is not because of the blockchain is weak, it's because of the vulnerabilities which are there in the blockchain, which are being left open by the developers because they don't follow some of the processes in the development stage. Same thing happens with the generative AI, and I spoke of data poisoning, right? So those are the very important things which you need to take care of.
Excellent. Thank you for highlighting the importance of this continuous testing and validation, continuous quality control, continuous supervision and monitoring to match the outcome with the vision, as Ms. Heba and Dr. Inderjeet. One more comment before we. Oh, we have, okay. Before we move to the next question, shall we go to the next question directly?
We
get
can.
excellent. Okay, thank you, Marion Baxter. I concur with the change management requirements. While agile transformation that was underestimated, and with generative AI, it is clearly it is a critical success factor. So, what are your comments on that?
I can start that one, but I think all of us can jump into that one. I think,
Absolutely.
so what's really great about this panel, and thank you, PMOGA, really, India, for putting this together. We really are balancing two big sides of the equation. I usually use what's called the 3H, actually 3 sides: the head, the heart, and the hand. To me, AI is in the sweet spot of the hand, the execution. It also is affecting the H, which is good because it's allowing us also to have the space and the data and the capacity to tackle decisions and everything else and the transformations in a different way. However, there's a lot of concern about, of course, what I learned today, even the terminology data poisoning, or your comments even about the infodemic that we have, etc. So change management is at the core of us making any use of Copilot or anything else that we heard around this discussion today, in my opinion. The reality is I've invested so much on trying to lift project into the program space that really by nature focuses on the change management side of things, right? Because it's ultimately about achieving value. And to the point that I want to have change scientists, right? I mean, that's really the kind of futurists that I need to have on my projects and program. Those change scientists combine the art and science of really making change happen, but they're also in a space where they are using the data to already minimize the inefficiencies that we might be having in order for us to focus on the harder change, which is changing the hearts and the rest of the minds of the 3H equation there. Agile transformation, everything we've been going through at the end of the day has been affected tremendously by our ability, whether or not we've laid out the foundation for the leaders of the organization, the dialogues and the critical discussions that take place to be altered and be different. Otherwise, nothing massively will change in terms of the ROI achievement behind both the technologies and the changes in the way of working, like the shift to Agile we've had over the years.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Al. And I think because of time, this is an amazing answer for a great question. But I would love the audience to continue following and connecting with our panelists. Thank you for the organizers, the partners, the actual collaborators. Let me hand over to our organizers to conclude.
Sure. Thank you, Mazin. It was really a wonderful power-packed session. On behalf of PMOGA India Hub, I really extend my heartfelt gratitude to all our esteemed panelists for today. Heba, Dr. Inderjeet Singh, Dr. Al Zeitoun, and Ms. Namita Jain. Your insights and the expertise that you brought in here are truly enriched on improving the strategy and delivery of PMO performance with blockchain and generative AI. We also extend our sincere appreciations to our moderator, Dr. Mazin Gadir, for steering the discussion with finesse. Thank you so much. A big thank you to our strategic partner, PlanView, Alan Manuel, for giving a great sneak peek preview of Copilot. It was really awesome, resonating with the session. And our event and knowledge partners, India Blockchain Forum, PMI Kerala Chapter, Dubai Municipality, PMOGA, UAE Hub. We thank nasscom Insights and PMO Global Alliance for their kind support. Your support has made this event a resounding success, and we look forward to future collaboration as well. Thank you all for your valuable contributions and participation today. You have a wonderful Saturday and wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.